Alright, it's a lovely Saturday out there. It's like 9:30 or so, and it's only about 80 degrees. So I think I'm going to do a few outside things until it gets a little warm. They say it's supposed to cool off tomorrow, feel more like fall, which will be nice. And then I'll come in here, uncover this, and work on it a little bit. I'm starting to think the bead's leaking. That tire leaks worse than the one that come off it. Oh well. Alright, what I did was I put 16 pumps of that stuff in the tire, and then using my little Makita grinder there, I got it spinning real good, and I'm gonna see if it stopped it from leaking around the bead once it stopped spinning here. It spins pretty good, don't it? And the answer is no, it did not. Do a little more camber, it works better. Oh yeah, it's cooking now. Well, it is fascinating sitting here watching these bubbles. But it doesn't look like it sealed up the bead on the tire. Probably because when I'm spinning it, centrifugal forces would tend to sling the goo to the outside of the tire and not to the bead. Probably what you need to do is some cornering, or either take the wheel off and flip it around, or probably more likely break down the bead, clean the rim, seat the bead back. All of which I may try at some point, just not today. I got other business to do. Alright, now I'm just back from the parts store where I had to buy these fittings because you know, those fittings are up in there. I ain't got them ones, or any variation of them that could work. Ain't that the way of it? Let's check and make sure we got all the flare nuts in place. We do. Of course, I've never made a bend and had the flare nut be in between so you couldn't slide the nut up to where you need it. I've never done that. Well, except for a couple minutes ago, but that's the only time. Sounds like something fell over there. I can't imagine. Anyway, I'm going to make this flare, and I'll show you where this whole menagerie goes. Holy moly. It's a perfect flare. That's good. Alright, let me show you where it goes. Alright, that's where it goes. That's going to be my oil feed for the turbo. But as you can see here, I made it a little bit too long. That's because I didn't want to mess up and make it too short, but I messed up and made it too long. But that's okay. We can add a little bend here and another one there and make this thing, we can take up a little distance that way. Alright, let's have a look, shall we? There it is, what comes out the, I'm having a brain cramp. The oil galley, oil pressure feed, comes up here, goes up there, and feeds the turbo. Now I gotta rig up a turbo drain. I got some 1/2 inch stuff, but I've been reading, I think I need to go bigger, so I'm gonna have to dig around. Probably I ain't got none of that either, but let me see what I can come up with. I had some 1/2 inch tube. I decided that was too small, so I've been racking my brains. I looked all over trying to find some tubing, and it just dawned on me. I even went to town, hardware store and all, but it just dawned on me. Old dipstick tube. It just so happens I had an old Turbo 400 laying over there, and somebody went after this one with a hacksaw. I think this is just what I need. Let me see what I can MacGyver up here. Before I get too hot and heavy into the drain tube, here's another. One fella has told it to me that I need an orifice in the oil feed for the turbo so it doesn't get too much oil. And then I did a little study in it and it says I don't need one. So I ain't sure if I need one or not, but if I do, I got one. I found it. Alright. Now this is a turbo off that little 3.8 V6 I got out in the shed. Turbo V6. And I need to make a flange for the oil drain, so I just took a piece of thin cardboard, laid it up there, and tapped it out with this cute little hammer I got. And that'll be a nice pattern for my flange, as well as a gasket when the time comes here shortly. Alright, here's my little gasket, and here's the beginnings of the flange. Looks like it'll work, don't it? I chose this particular portion of this piece of steel because it had a hole in the center, which I just made a little bit bigger. See, eliminated one step. Probably saved 3-4 minutes that way. Alright, here's my progress so far. I've got the little flange bolted up there using metric bolts. It just pains me to put metric bolts on this thing, but what are you gonna do? I'm going to put my dipstick tube in the oil pan about like so. I'm gonna drill a hole in it, and then we're gonna have to get it up to the drain port there in the correct manner. Now ordinarily I wouldn't just drill a hole in the oil pan, but I'm going to pull the oil pan to make sure all shavings are out, and I've got to weld a reinforcement flange right there. So oil pan's coming off, don't worry, be happy. Mrs. Heavy Chevy's here, but I'm not allowed to put her in the video because various reasons. She thinks she's unattractive or something, I don't know, but she's here. Anyway, she said, "What are you making that for?" I said, "Well, I'm making it for this right here. That goes in the oil pan like so."
I see.
And then somewhere.
What are you looking for?
I'm looking for my dipstick. Oh, where is it? Here it is. Seems like I just cleaned this workbench off. And this is gonna go in here like so. I gotta modify it a little bit better, more so that that seal there will fit better. And then that will fit in there like so, and then it'll point towards the turbo. There's still a ways to go yet, but it's coming together.
Well, it looks good.
Of course it does. Actually, I don't really need to do too much. That's going to work pretty good. Just clean it up. That should seal there. And then we'll weld that there. And then it'll unbolt up there and should be able to pull the dipstick. I mean, not the dipstick. It is a dipstick, but it's the turbo oil drain. It should work just fine. That's not bad for a little backyard engineering, is it? I think that's the leg out of a chair Mrs. Heavy Chevy threw away a while back. So I guess I am a recycler, you know. Save the earth. I think I read somewhere recently in some school literature maybe. Recycle, repurpose, reuse. That's what I'm talking about. Alright, here's the progress so far. I attached my little plate to the oil pan. I've got my dipstick, which is now an oil drain tube up in here, but somehow that angle wound up being steeper than I expected. I think it's going to be okay. The other thing I am warned of being careful of, reading this old book I got, make sure your turbo drains in above the oil level. And if my calculations are correct, the oil, when full, is about 3 inches down from this lip, so we're good there. I might try to bend this tube a little bit just to get it away from that exhaust some, and then get up here. Somehow that's going to be a little bit of a trick, but we'll figure it out. Don't worry. I did something stupid a minute ago. Real stupid.
What was that?
I was heating this dipstick up with a torch and bending it. And then I went over here and I stuck it in the hole with a pair of pliers or something. And then I looked at it a second. And then I reached up there and grabbed it and realized it was still hotter than hot. And I burnt my thumb.
I know that hurts.
Pointy finger.
I've done that plenty of times.
And my other finger.
Yeah, you can see where you seared it.
Does it make it better? Oh, God. What was that?
Drill.
I can't believe you kissed that nasty thumb.
Yeah.
Okay.
Could be worse.
Could be worse. I guess she's leaving me now again, going out to dinner with her daughters.
Well.
So I guess it's just me and the old stuff and
The boys.
a couple boys.
You're going to take the boys out, though.
Maybe I will, and maybe we'll go out and kill our dinner.
Oh, that'd be great.
You know, your fingers get calloused up and it won't blister. Boy, smarts.
Wah.
Smarts.
Quit being a girl.
Alright. Alright. That's not the prettiest thing I ever did make right there, but I believe it'll work. Let me get a light so you can see it real. Alright, what this is a dipstick out of a Turbo 400 transmission. I used a leg off a chair, which fits just right so that seal will fit in it. I bolted that there. I'm going to pull the pan later. Well, not too much later, but later. And weld that on and make sure everything drains properly. This is dropping in the oil above the oil level. I put a little kink in it there, didn't I? Well, and then I welded it together right there and welded it to my little flange I made up there. So I think that's going to work. It's not the prettiest, but it ain't bad. Alright, next I got to build some more brackets to secure the turbo. I've got to rebuild and attach the carburetor. I've got to modify it too so it'll work. Pull the pan, weld that stuff up, clean it out real good. I'm going to pull the head, put a new head gasket on it. And I didn't get any intake or exhaust manifold gaskets, did I? Anyways, got to do that. I got to weld this on. I got to get a piece of silicone hose instead of that old radiator hose. And I think this thing will run again. I doubt it'll all happen tomorrow, but it might. Just now, I got to go take the little man and his buddy somewhere to eat. So that's the bell. Can't think of anything else brilliant to say, so hit the like button. That helps me out. Believe it or not, this hobby is very expensive. And comment too, unless you're just a moron. Don't comment if you're a moron. Actually, it's kind of amusing. If you're a moron, go ahead and comment. Most of you ain't. And come back next time. Maybe it runs next time. Or maybe I'll work on something else next time. Maybe. Maybe I'll put the transmission in the black truck. Or maybe if it ain't hot, I'll fire up the 68. You just never can tell.
This one.
Wipers work.
Yep.
Wish it weren't raining though.
Would you tighten up that wing nut, Mrs. Heavy Chevy?
You must think I have all week to do this.
Well, you can't cut the stud and then put the wing on. It could be a burr, so you got to run the nut down and then cut it off.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.